Let's jump right in. Picture a busy restaurant. Kids are running around, making a total mess, laughing loudly, and then there's that one perfectly silent child sitting with their hands neatly folded. You know the one. We've all seen them, and society absolutely praises them. But the psychological reality beneath that perfect behavior? Well, it's a lot deeper and honestly a whole lot more complex than it looks. So in this explainer, we're going to uncover the silent ache that's hiding right behind the perfectly behaved child. Have you ever really noticed how the quietest child often carries the heaviest burden? Think about that model kid who never interrupts, never asks for too much, and just follows the rules without a single fuss. On the surface, they seem like an absolute dream for any parent, right? But beneath those polite smiles and constant agreeable nods, there's usually a hidden pain, and it almost never gets noticed. Why? Because honestly, parents and teachers are just so relieved by the silence that they completely miss the heavy emotional load that child is hauling around.
There's this thought: if I am good enough, quiet enough, helpful enough, maybe then I'll be loved. It's a heartbreaking internal monologue. You see, obedience isn't always a sign of a healthy kid. Quite often, it's actually a silent survival strategy just to avoid rejection. These kids start to believe that their inherent worth just isn't enough on its own. They think love and safety are things they have to constantly, actively earn, mostly by being perfectly compliant, overly helpful, and basically invisible.
Section 1. The perfect child illusion. This brings us to the concept of conditional love, where a child believes love and safety depend entirely on compliance and behaving in the right way. In these environments, kids develop this highly sensitive emotional radar. They're constantly scanning the adults in the room, trying to figure out exactly which version of themselves will actually get rewarded with safety and affection. They learn to anticipate what adults need and then just adjust their entire personality to match. We often praise this as maturity, but what's really happening? It's laying the groundwork for a lifelong pattern of suppressing who they really are. Every single child is born with raw impulses. They want to laugh loud, cry when they're hurt, ask a million exhausting questions. That's the authentic self. But when those natural impulses are consistently met with disapproval, a tragic trade-off happens. They swap that authenticity for a compliant trade. They polish themselves up, swallow those questions, and mute their desires just to fit in. They literally tame themselves, sacrificing their true, unfiltered identity just to secure the safety of being accepted. So what happens when that perfectly obedient 8-year-old turns 28? Because, those childhood patterns don't just magically disappear when you hit adulthood. The child who learned that self-expression was inherently unsafe, well, they become the adult who doesn't know how to express themselves at all.
Section 2. The cost of compliance. This is what we call the adulthood echo. Maybe you know someone like this, or hey, maybe this is you. The adult who gives endlessly, completely avoids conflict, and just carries this silent fatigue from trying to please everyone else. We see it showing up as intense workplace burnout, usually because someone is just way too afraid to tell their boss no to another huge project. We see it in friendships that totally lack mutual comfort, or in relationships where one person gives absolutely everything to secure love, while their own needs remain completely invisible.
It's actually kind of wild to look at the developmental psychology research here. You normally assume that perfect behavior leads to high confidence, right? Well, it's the exact opposite. Children who are excessively obedient often score lower on self-esteem later in life. Why? Because these individuals were praised for erasing parts of themselves, so they were never given the space to build true self-worth. They got rewarded for what they could hide, not for what they could discover about themselves. And that leads to a deep emptiness that even the highest, most impressive achievements just can't fill. Section 3. Wearing the false self. So what exactly is the false self? It's a polished, agreeable mask developed to adapt to what the environment needs, completely hiding the authentic self underneath. And over time, wearing this mask becomes so practiced and automatic that the adult almost entirely forgets who they truly are outside of performing for others. Obedience isn't even a choice anymore. It feels like their entire identity. It's like playing a character in a stage play, but the curtain never actually closes, and you're just endlessly performing for an audience every single waking hour. Eventually, the self just fractures right in two. On one hand, you've got this outer self that looks incredibly dependable to the rest of the world. It's perfectly composed, agreeable, completely acceptable. But on the other hand, the inner self is silenced and forgotten, carrying all this silent fatigue. It builds quiet resentment and just longs to finally be seen.
That inner voice shrinks down to a whisper, leading to a life that honestly feels a lot more like an exhausting performance than actual living.
Section 4. Why society rewards silence.
When you zoom out, you start to realize this isn't just a personal psychological issue. Our society is literally built on compliance. Think about it. Our corporate and educational systems basically run on compliant adults. We value order instead of individuality. We want performance instead of presence. And we prioritize silence over having a real voice. We reward people who sit quietly in their cubicles and don't disrupt the status quo. We are a culture that's just far more comfortable with obedience than with authenticity, often treating adults like toddlers who just need to sit still and be quiet to get a gold star.
So, what happens to a world full of adults who know exactly how to conform, but never truly learned how to just be? If we don't call out this hidden pain, we risk raising entire generations who can function and comply perfectly, but who never actually live. True presence, real innovation, and meaningful social change, those things usually require a bit of messiness and noise. When we only value conformity, we lose that vital human spark that drives all of our progress.
Section 5. Reclaiming your authentic self.
But here is where the hope enters, and we have a clear awakening roadmap to get there. Step 1 is awareness. It's about finally noticing that painful tension when your heart screams no while your mouth automatically says yes. Step 2 is permission. You have to actively allow yourself to set boundaries and feel all those messy feelings, like anger, frustration, or sadness, without feeling guilty about it. And step 3, courage. It's the daily, imperfect practice of choosing your truth over the comfort of compliance. Here's something absolutely crucial. What's unsafe becomes buried. But buried feelings don't just disappear. They transform. They turn into anxiety, into extreme perfectionism, or into sheer physical exhaustion. Now, choosing courage might disappoint people. It might disrupt the systems you're a part of. But honestly, it is the absolute only way to unearth those buried feelings. You have to be willing to cause a little bit of friction if you want to heal. Imagine finally giving yourself permission to reparent that inner child. Asking yourself terrifying but deeply liberating questions. Ask, what do I really want? Ask, what do I really feel right now? It's about looking in the mirror and whispering, you don't have to be perfect. It's a radical shift. It literally means you stop trying to be good in the eyes of everyone else and you start trying to just be real with yourself.
Because when you really think about it, true goodness isn't found in obedience. It's found in authenticity. Reclaiming your voice doesn't just free you, it actually breaks the cycle for your kids and the generations that follow too. Every single time an obedient adult chooses to be authentic, they model a totally new way of being for everyone around them. It creates a space where love is shared through truth, rather than something you have to exhaust yourself to earn through people-pleasing. So, I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. Will you continue the performance of perfect obedience, or will you find the courage to be bravely authentic? Think about the greatest loyalty you can offer. Is it to the masks you wear, or to the truth of who you are? That hidden pain is real, for sure, but it certainly doesn't have to be the end of your story. Underneath all that quiet obedience is a voice that absolutely deserves to be heard.